Are we going to get downgraded? Only a miracle now is going to save us from an official junk status.
Our view is that there's a likely going to be a downgrade, unfortunately, for South Africa.
Yeah, I must say I'm a little bit worried.
Unfortunately, this rating below investment grade is all the doing of this administration.
Those in the know-how say a junk status credit rating for South Africa is unavoidable. One of the three leading agencies, Fitch, already pronounced on the country's credit rating on Thursday, keeping it at junk. Now all eyes are on Standard & Poor's and Moody's, who are set to make their announcements in a few hours' time. We're at Sandton Convention Centre in Africa's Golden Square Mile. Business people, comedians and the more affluent South Africans are here to find out what the politicians have to say about the current state of the country. While politicians give their usual speeches, it is the voice of the attendees who many top South Africa's food chain, which is concerning.
I think if we go back over the last 5 years, we've seen it coming for a long time, and those that should be putting a halt on it haven't. They've just let it happen.
South Africa needs to face that wall of how much we've not advanced in the last couple of years because of bad governance.
It's been complete chaos from a political point of view, which has had a massive social impact. And the international community looks at us and they go, political, social equals economic trouble. And we haven't proven them otherwise. There's been no positive steps to change things.
It's obviously concerning, the downgrade, and I don't think people really understand how it's going to impact them. I've got my own business and I'm really concerned.
I think it's almost inevitable, the path that we've taken. So what we need to do is to plan about how do we get out of that, rather than how do we avoid it. How do we get out once we're there?
The root causes are, I think, multifold, but it's about leadership. There isn't requisite political leadership. There isn't requisite corporate leadership.
A CEO of a major importer of Italian furniture paints a picture of how a downgrade will impact business.
There's a possibility that there'll be a downgrade, and obviously we do a lot of importing. We are major importers, in fact, and the rate of exchange is a critical aspect of our costing. And for the rand or for the euro, dollar, or whatever, rand dollar, rand euro, it's of concern to us. Hopefully they'll give us a bit of breathing space.
On a lighter note, comedian John Flismus.
I have many opinions as a South African. It all depends on what's my agenda. If you could just let me know what agenda you're looking for, I could then give you my opinion based on that. Because on one hand, it's right that we should be downgraded to reflect accurately the financial mess that's been left in the wake of state capture. On the other hand, who are ratings agencies? They're just the agents of white monopoly capital, and they've come to poison the idea that Africa is quite capable of standing on its own without your junk status, Europe. So shut your face.
While business and politicians battled it out in Sandton, economists in the country are concerned. On this day, Iraj Abedian was one of the many economists who woke up to rocky South African markets. The reason? The resignation of yet another top Treasury official, long-serving Deputy Director General, who headed the Budget Office, Michael Sachs. Not the first resignation under the recently appointed Finance Minister, Malusi Gigaba.
The consequence, having just lost the DG, having now lost the DDG, the head of the Budget Office, before that have lost Mr. Donaldson, this is a collective of over 50 years of institutional memory that you cannot rebuild anytime soon. It's absolutely harmful to the minister's image. Any new minister would want to keep the institutional capacity, the institutional expertise.
With over 40 years of experience, Iraj Abedian says a downgrade to junk status is inevitable. This, among other factors, he attributes to President Jacob Zuma's rule and reshuffles. Not even the ruling African National Congress can keep the president in check, he says.
Look, judging by ANC's own admissions, these type of rearrangements, be it cabinet reshuffle, be it cadre deployment, and the ANC is not consulted any longer. ANC is not in the loop. It's like you and I mostly analyzing it from outside and at times hearing it after the event. So I think that is the reality that ANC faces at the moment, by their own admission.
Economists aren't the only ones concerned. Captains of industries also speak out.
I think we've done everything to deserve a credit downgrade at the moment in terms of what happened in the medium-term budget policy statement. We have low growth, we have high unemployment, high income inequality. The fiscal consolidation path that we were on has suddenly been reversed or taken backwards. And the outlook for the next 3 years after this year is for a budget deficit of 3.9% of GDP. So all of those factors tell me that we are going to be downgraded.
I think the medium-term budget people perceive was a move away from what we call fiscal consolidation. I think the minister told the world it was wrong. He never told them how he was going to fix it. And I think that markets don't like uncertainty. So I think, hopefully they'll wait over until after
December.
the conference. But, they'll look at their metrics and they'll decide. And I must say I'm a little bit worried.
There's a likely going to be a downgrade, unfortunately, for South Africa. And therefore, our view we've taken is that in also managing our debt levels, we should be well placed, because if you operate in emerging markets, you will see that you need to be conservative when it comes to that. Similarly, the events in Zimbabwe further highlight that our position of saying, let's manage our debt levels. However, this crisis do not last forever. And I hope they don't last as they have in Zimbabwe. But our view on South Africa remains very positive.
The voice that represents 80 businesses, BLSA, also spoke out. In a bid to clear its image from being perceived as an enemy of government, earlier this week, Business Leadership South Africa released a Quantac report telling of businesses' contribution to South Africa.
First, it's very sad that as business we have to spend so much time, energy and effort and money on research to puncture inflated fallacies about the role of business and its significance. So the Intellidex report was one of them when business was accused that it is on an investment strike. The facts proved otherwise. Now we are releasing one that shows that business is not the enemy, but business is the answer. Because there is no economy anywhere else in the world that has ever been pro-growth, but anti-business. That especially at these difficult times when we want to create jobs and stimulate the economy to grow positively, in fact, we need business more than anything else. So the report said a number of things. That number one, the business's contribution to the GDP is in excess of 2 trillion South African rands. That the 57 members, even though we've got 80 who responded, their own contribution to the economy is 1.9 trillion, which is exactly the same as what the biggest asset manager in the continent, assets under management are, the PIC. But it also says a business employs 7 times more people than government.
South Africa's current administration must own up to its flaws, says Mohale.
Unfortunately, this rating below investment grade is all the doing of this administration. Rolihlahla Nelson Mandela's upgrades were up. Thabo Mbeki's ratings were up. In fact, he had 43 consecutive quarters. This administration chose to use money that belongs to South Africans to bail out ill-performing state-owned enterprises where friends and family have been sent and redeployed to go and manage when they know nothing about the difference between income and cash. Where our best foot forward is not the one that is being used, but the only ones that are being redeployed many times over. Chairman of CEO of Transnet, CEO of Eskom, also be in the army, also be an MP, are the ones that are not really Africa's best. When we have been in the presence of dignified greatness, when people like Ruel Khoza chaired the Eskom board, and at that time it had a rating agency greater than sovereign.
Business Leadership South Africa says state capture is at the heart of the problem. While the president asks, what is state capture? Mohale willingly defines it.
Let me define state capture to the president of this country. State capture is when a number of things are present, all of them together, then says your state has been captured. Without any degree of granularity, when your state-owned enterprises are being repurposed to benefit only the Zuma and the Gupta family. When number two, you entrench parallel but weak governance. That's why all the good cops have been replaced by the bad cops, to aid and abet, but also to sponsor state capture. Number three is when you create a shadow state. A shadow state is when cabinet is no longer the center of decision making. We hear the top 6 say, this list that was confronted with on the 31st of March was developed somewhere else, not in this cabinet.
A credit downgrade to junk status is likely to hurt the man in the street the most.
Johannesburg, CBD, on a summer's morning. While economists say that the country will be downgraded to junk, the people here carry on with their daily lives.
While many might not know what a credit rating is, they have their views on the economy.
When the economy is going down, we tend to change how we react to the economy. How, in other words, we as people who are living in the society, we start looking for other sources of income so that we can balance up in that problem.
I think it's because of corruption is too much in this country. That's why everything it goes the way it is now.
I'm still doing a kind of a job. I'm buying things and I'm selling just to survive. So if it goes down further, really this country is not good anymore.
I treat SA as it is.
I treat SA as it is because it's all the same. Even if the economy is stable, I still don't gain anything. My poverty remains the same. That's why I'm not interested in downgrades.
While the poor get poorer, they can at least count on these young minds to rescue them from poverty. These entrepreneurs are the National Development Plan 2030's ambassadors. They remain hopeful.
I think we shouldn't just look down on our country. We have so much potential, and today's event is proof that there's still so much potential for young people. Although people make us believe that we are at a point of at a downfall, but then I still have hope for this country. There's so much that this country is doing. We are one of the most innovative countries within Africa. We are one of the economic hubs of Africa.
Everyone is talking about downgrading, is talking about that. I think planning is the most important part of it. It's been hard. It's still hard. It was hard before we got to junk status. We're still hard even now. But how we push and how we proceed on a daily basis, I think that's what is most important.
It's heart-wrenching, I must say, given how far we've come as a country, to being downgraded to junk status. But I also think it's an opportunity for us, especially young people, young innovators, young entrepreneurs, to actually use this time of being downgraded to junk status and use our innovation, creative ideas, and come up with solutions, because at the end of the day, this is our country.
If the economists have it right, in a few hours' time, South Africa's local credit rating is most likely to be reduced to junk. Through it all, South Africans can take a page or two from the optimism these young ambassadors have. Aviwem Tila for CNBC Africa, Johannesburg.